Hello, welcome once again to the channel on this very busy week. I get a week off and we end up doing lots of exciting stuff. The DJI RC, latest firmware update for the Mini 3 and the Air 2S. So that's what today's video is all about. The new latest firmware for the Mini 3 0100 0400 and for the RC 0102 0000. And for the Air 2S 0204 2320. So let's get straight into the video and have a look exactly what it's all about. Some new exciting features. Now this video comes with a bit of a warning. The Air 2S was a bit of a swine to get this new firmware update, but we managed to do it in the end, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Let's get straight into the video. So here we go then, the latest goodies from DJI. Added support for the FAA remote ID requirements in the United States. When the firmware update is complete, the remote ID function cannot be disabled. And the DJI Fly app 1.7.8 or later is required for the Fly aircraft in the United States. So it doesn't affect us in the UK, but if you're in the United States, if you don't update the firmware and the Fly app, you can't get connection to the Air 2S. Added support for using master shots in portrait mode. That will be quite handsome. Added shutter priority and ISO priority for the camera in Pro mode. That was a feature that was available on the Air 2S. Added support for adjusting style parameters such as sharpness and noise reductions, which I'll show you in a short while. Added support for using wide angle lens. Other added features also require DJI Fly app 1.7.8 or later. So this is available on the App Store. If you're not using the RC, you can download it and use it on the iPhone. So what's new on the firmware for the DJI RC? Added support to use with the DJI Air 2S, as I said earlier in the video, which is great news. DJI now supports FlyShare. FlyShare allows users to transfer files from the remote controller to a mobile device. So that's quite handy, not having to use a quick transfer. FlyShare requires 1.7.8 or later and fix some minor bugs. So downloading the new firmware is pretty straightforward as you normally would. I'm not going to bore you to death with the details, but we will have a look at the new features in the latest firmware update. So having a quick look into the menus, you can see there the latest aircraft firmware 01000400 and 1.7.8, which is the latest Fly app. Looking into the camera mode, I'll show you one of the new features which is available. This is the style. We open this up and you can see you can now adjust the sharpness and the noise reduction of the camera itself. Had a little play with it, not gone into too much detail, but I'm going to do a flight test a little later on, and that'll be at the end of the video. So another new feature on the Pro mode is the ISO and shutter priority. I'm just adjusting it manually here. I've got an ND filter on, but if you click on either the ISO or the shutter priority, as you can see here, ISO, it now automatically takes priority, and the shutter, that automatically would take priority. Very similar to a DSLR camera where you can select your shutter or aperture priority. Looking through the other menus, nothing seems to have changed other than those a couple of features that I've just spoken about, but I just thought I'd run through them and just make sure that everything is as it was. Don't forget, after any firmware update, make sure that you look at your settings, i.e. return to home, altitudes, that kind of thing, and make sure that everything's turned on as it should be. Moving on to the Air 2S firmware 0204 2320. Added support for the United States remote ID, as I spoke about earlier. Added support for the DJI RC remote controller, and added support for the Expo Curve settings in Cine mode, which is a good feature that wasn't available before. Now, this firmware did take quite a while, and it did fail the first time around. I had to restart everything, and once I did that and did the firmware update, it seemed to go through okay. Once you finish the firmware, you will get this screen pop up, unable to connect aircraft. All this means is that you need to pair the Air2S to the RC. This is quite a simple process. Literally press and hold the power button on the aircraft for 4 seconds and tap the pair to start pairing. Once you've done this, you'll then be connected to the aircraft and the DJI RC. You may get this message pop up, which is just a disclaimer about using AirSense. That's one of the features with the Air2S if you don't already know. So just enable that and away you go. You may be asked to bind your device, which is quite normal. You can either cancel that or you can actually go in and bind it to the RC as shown here. So checking on the firmware, you can see it's not the correct firmware. So just by clicking on check for updates and update the latest firmware, this is where it sorted itself out and once again updated the correct firmware. So if this happens to you, that's all you need to do. So once it's all complete, here we go. DJI Air2S, firmware inconsistent, update firmware before use. Now this happens when you switch between devices and it literally takes a few seconds. Once that's uploaded, there we go. Now you can relink the device if needed. And as you can see just here now, we've got the video feed for the DJI Air2S, which is exciting news. Just check the firmware and we've now got the correct firmware and the fly out 1.7.8. So just going to go out and do a quick test flight and then we'll see the results. The first test we're going to do is with the DJI RC with the Mini 3. That's already connected. I just want to see if all these features are available. You did see in the menus. So let's get the screen recording going. Let's just check on the map where we are. Yep, we've flown here several times before, as you know. So let's launch this. Let's launch the Mini 3 and see how we go. It's quite windy today. I'm flying in the car because of the noise. Anyway, it's very windy. I just want to see if these features, like it said, are available. Let's get him up a little bit. So one of the first ones was master shots in vertical mode. Let's see if that's available. Master shots. Okay. Width. Start.
3, 2, 1.
Like I say, I'm not going to go through all of the master shots. I just want to prove that it's working. As you can see what it's doing now. This is working in vertical mode. Let's do a drone it. Like I say, I'm going to stop that because we're not here to test that out fully. I just wanted to make sure that that feature was working. See, we've got a strong wind warning there. Okay, let's get onto the camera and down on the new style, which I showed you earlier in the video. This is where you can adjust the noise reduction. So let's see if that's made any difference. Very difficult to tell on screen, but I will look at the footage afterwards. Get him into record mode. Bring the sharpness up and see if that alters anything. Like I say, very difficult to tell on screen, but I will look at the footage. So reset those parameters back to 0, and then I can compare it a little later on when we get back to see if there's any difference. Anyway, let's have a quick fly around and make sure that everything's in order. I am going to swap over in a minute to the Air 2S and just check that everything is working as it should on the Air 2S. Quite excited about that. Strong wind warnings at 30 metres. We have got gusts at 40 mile an hour today, so like I say, I'll be interested to see the Air 2S in its glory, as we know that's a fantastic drone handling the wind. To be quite honest with you though, the Mini 3, it does handle really well in the wind, to be fair. I've just dropped down, as you can see, 20 odd metres out of my normal flying location inside the car due to the noise, nothing else. Okay, let's bring him back and land it, and then we can swap over to the Air 2S. So okay, Air 2S is now starting up, as you can hear. Now purposely I've just checked on the RC. I've got no Wi-Fi connection at the moment, which I can connect to my phone, but I'm just interested to see exactly what happens when we switch over aircraft, whether it's going to ask me for that firmware update. Connection guide. DJI Air 2S. Right, I'm going to click continue. Firmware updated. So we don't need Wi-Fi. It's obviously something that's inbuilt into the DJI RC that just switches over those two firmwares between the different aircrafts, between the Air 2S and the Mini 3 that we've just seen. So let's get this in the air and give it a quick fly around. Like I say, it is windy, so I'm not going to get too mad, but I'll be interested to see what's actually happening. Okay, she's up in the air, as you can see, and it really is very windy out there. Flying into the wind at the moment, which is not a bad thing. Get him up a little bit. Now we should see, hopefully, that at 40 metres, let's see if we get any strong wind warnings. I'm not expecting to get any, with it being the Air 2S, but it is blowing a gale. We can swing the camera around. Let's see if we can show you. No, you don't want to play, but trust me, it's blowing a gale. Okay, let's have a quick look in the menu. As you can see, the latest firmware 02042320 and 1.7.8. There we go, strong wind warning. So like I say, it is gusting at about 40 mile an hour. We'll just drop him down a bit. I'm not too unduly worried with the Air 2S, as you know. This thing can fight the wind extremely well. And we should have. Just checking the camera. Yeah. Now if we go into Pro mode, I'm massively overexposed at the moment. So if we go into Auto ISO, Auto shutter speed, see how that altered that shutter speed to suit the ISO. And if we go into Auto ISO, it all sorts it out for you. Great feature on the Air 2S, and now available on the Mini 3 as well. Okay, let's just have a little bit of a fly around. We'll stick him in sports mode. Absolutely love it. And considering I'm flying in the car, we're out at 550, 600 meters. Signal just started to drop 1 bar, but you expect that sometimes. I absolutely love this drone. Absolutely love it. Let's get that. Let's get him back towards us anyway. Oh, see, he's picking up again. Strong wind warnings, and as you can see, it's absolutely batting along. Drifting very slightly. Let's drop him down. So there we go, the latest DJI RC firmware and firmware for the Mini 3 and the Air 2S. Fantastic result. Thank you very much, DJI. Made me a happy man today. And as you can see on the test flights, absolutely superb. Everything works as it should do. So my opinion is, well, if you're in the UK, get onto it and get downloaded it and update it. It's as simple as that. Some great new features, as you saw. Master shots with vertical mode. So that's handy if you're into that kind of thing. I don't use it that often myself. A good new feature for social media, for sharing your content. And like I say, the use of the DJI RC for both drones. You can just take the drones and the RC out, and maybe the RCN1 controller as a backup. You never know if your battery's going to go. So hope you've got some use out of it. You found it informative. If you have, give it a thumbs up, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.